Welcome to another episode of Jay's Sideline. Shout out to the rest of the F&S family. Go check out Free's Corner. Go listen to the episode on the Wives Unscripted. And always stay on the lookout for the rest of the F&S podcast. What I'm going to do today is I'm going to review the two biggest trades that happened yesterday in the NFL. Talk about them, give my opinion. The biggest one, Davante Adams traded to the Raiders. Traded from the Raiders to the Jets. I believe it was just for a third-round pick. My first question is, if that was the price that you could have got Davante Adams at, how come then no other teams come up off that? That's my very first reaction to it. Because Davante Adams, even though he's a little bit older, he still got something left. And I can't be completely mad at him for not wanting to waste his talents and what he got left playing for the Raiders that don't necessarily have a long-term answer at the quarterback position. So I can't be necessarily mad at him for that. The Raiders is my West Coast team that I pull for. So, the Raiders right now, when you look at just what's in their division with Kansas City, the Chargers, and the Broncos, they are the only ones that doesn't have that long-term answer at the quarterback position. And when you look at their roster talent-wise, they're competing for third. Because the talent, obviously it goes to Kansas City Chiefs first, then it goes to the Chargers, and then after that, it's kind of like a toss-up between the Raiders and the Broncos. Because the Broncos is a young team that within itself, they just are young, behind on the talent part of it, at least. Maybe some of that talent develops. Raiders are in a similar position. I know they got Max Crosby over there. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him get moved because he's already in his late 20s. They signed Christian Wilkins in the offseason. They got two young stud tight ends, Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer. And the wide receiver position for them right now, outside of Davante Adams, they didn't really have pieces over there that you really felt like, okay, these guys are really, really good. I know they got Jacoby Myers over there, he's solid. Jacoby is solid. But outside of that, guys that still need to develop. And so pretty much the whole point is the Raiders are not at a competitive point right now with their roster. So Davante being already over 30, we already know what the time frame is for players in the NFL. I'm not mad at him for not wanting to spend his last days not being able to compete. At least make the playoffs. So the Raiders getting the draft pick, that's good for them. Now on the flip side of that, the team that he got traded to, the Jets. The Jets, right now, they are struggling to win games. They're struggling to win games. Probably the biggest surprise to me is that defensively, they don't look the same. Defensively, they look like you can almost get whatever you want on them to a degree if you can get that run game established. Because the way Buffalo ran the ball on them the other night, that should be the game plan for everybody when they play against the Jets. Run the ball, and you'll be able to get the rest of your offense working. So, the Jets right now, they're struggling defensively. Offensively, I will say this, offensively, that was the best game from my eyes where they offense looked like they were attacking constantly. Now, given there was some touchdowns that got taken away from them due to penalties. You had the one potential touchdown catch that Garrett Wilson dropped when he got sandwiched hit. So they should have scored more points than what they did. But as far as the eye test and whatnot, they looked better. The offensive line still is not looking good over there. I mean, you got two real old players at your tackle spots, which is the most important spots on the offensive line, if you ask me. Because that's where the deadliest pass rushers are in regards to protecting for the quarterback. But what does Davante Adams do for them? Well, at the very least, it should make everybody look a little bit better. Because now you got to think about Garrett Wilson. Instead of being the number one wide receiver, I don't think he's better than Davante Adams yet. But instead of being the number one wide receiver, now he drops down to number 2. Allen Lazard is number 3. Or Mike Williams, whichever one. I mean, it should be Mike Williams, but he's normally always hurt. So everybody drops down one slot when Davante Adams walks in the building. And that makes everybody look better. Because now Garrett Wilson, instead of going up against the best corner, you're probably going up against the second best corner. And let's say they keep Garrett Wilson at the number 1 corner spot, and Davante takes on the second best corner. That's easy money. That's real easy money. So now, you know, you got an obvious mismatch somewhere on the field. And Aaron Rodgers, being the vet that he is, I would think that he could identify that mismatch at the line of scrimmage before he snaps the ball, and he can already have a good idea where he wants to go with it, just based on who's covering who. That should result, this move ultimately should result in more points being scored on the board. It should. Defensively, it could benefit them by taking pressure off of them, because each drive that the offense doesn't score, it puts pressure on the defense. Because now, if they give up anything, it could be detrimental to the team. It could be detrimental to team success. Because now we constantly are in the threat of putting up points, getting points put up against us, and every drive matters. Every snap matters. every third down given up matters. And so when you factor those things in, being able to score points just takes pressure off of them, even off the coaches, because now if you can score more points, you put pressure on the other team, and you can most likely make them one-dimensional if you can build a little cushion. So whoever's calling the plays here, when you have somebody like Davante Adams, this is a team that should score like 4 touchdowns a game, at least. And you would think. I mean, I ain't going to say that the Jets are stacked, but they look pretty good. With Davante Adams, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, that's 3 players right there that's, Davante is proven. Garrett Wilson, he's not technically proven, but he's got the potential to like, he's constantly showed the potential to be like, look, this isn't nothing that I'm incapable of here. And then with Aaron Rodgers over there, even though he's not the Aaron Rodgers of old, he still is a vet. He knows the game. And he's paired with somebody that he's had a lot of success with. His MVP season, one of his MVP seasons came with throwing the ball to Davante Adams. So this technically should just be nothing but positive benefit changes coming into the Jets. Did I think they should have fired Robert Saleh? Well, for me personally, I didn't think Robert Saleh was fit to be a head coach. That's just my personal opinion. He knows defense well. He helped build the Jets defense. Even though this year they're having a down year so far. But to be a head coach, everybody has to fall under you, no matter who they are. Everybody has to fall under you, and they have to know they place under you. And Robert Saleh, it seems like when Aaron Rodgers entered the building, he took a place underneath Aaron Rodgers. And that can't never happen. He was a young head coach. And so you can understand to a degree why you would defer to a vet quarterback like Rodgers, but you should not defer everything to a player as a coach. You're the coach for a reason. So with this trade and the new interim head coach and things happening inside that organization, it looks like they still trying to make something happen out of this season, which is, as an organization, for the fans of the New York Jets, what more can you ask for? When you're constantly losing and you're underachieving, and this was a team that was expected to be a potential Super Bowl contender, and you're starting off the season 2-4. Starting off the season 2-4 does not spell we're competing for a championship this year. It doesn't even spell that we're competing to make the playoffs. So you can't be technically mad at the organization for trying to do things to make this season a successful one. But we'll see what happens with it. Because right now, Buffalo is sitting in the driver's seat of the AFC East. Miami, their season is pretty much done without no Tua. The Patriots, they were never even to be considered a contender in that division. This division was up to at least from the beginning, it was supposed to be up to the Jets first, then the Dolphins, then the Bills. But it's completely starting off the other way around, where the Bills is 1 and the Jets are second by default because the Dolphins can't seem to win the game now without Tua. So they still technically have a chance to make the playoffs here, to flip this thing around. But right now they've gotten themselves in a position to where one more loss could be detrimental to their season. I know they're only 2-4, but one more loss could cause a domino effect of players quitting and things of that nature. And then one loss turns into 2. And then players lose confidence. 2 losses turn into 3. You know? So there's not much room for error here. And without stability at the head coaching position, this move is like a desperate move, final attempt to make the best of this season. We'll see if they make a move on that offensive line. That's where they really need to make a move. Make a move on that offensive line. If they make a move on that offensive line, then things could really, really be good. But if they keep the offensive line the way it is and just expect Davante Adams to come in and make that huge of a difference, he's going to make a difference. But against good defensive teams that win in the trenches, his impact is not going to be enough. Because Aaron Rodgers ain't going to have the time to make the decision. He ain't going to have time to think twice. He's going to be getting hit while he throws. The running game might not be effective. Who knows? Because as long as they in the AFC, you're going to have to go through Kansas City, Baltimore. Right now, those are the 2 top teams in the AFC. Houston is another team that you're going to have to deal with. But for the most part, teams that win the line of scrimmage, you're going to have to go through them some way, somehow, if you expect to win. So we'll see what happens. But the interesting thing is, right after the Davante Adams trade happened, the division-winning Buffalo Bills, they made themselves a move too. That's the next one that we're going to talk about. The Buffalo Bills traded to get Amari Cooper off the Cleveland Browns. And I know Amari Cooper got to be having this like sigh of relief, breath of fresh air moment right now, because right now everything in Cleveland is not looking good. It's not. Everything in Cleveland is saying just bad right now. Not that they don't have a talented team, but things just ain't working out. Mainly Deshaun Watson, that quarterback, is not working out. I haven't been able to watch too many of Cleveland games, but I just know that the defense hasn't been giving up points and the offense hasn't been able to score points. So, trading Amari Cooper, I'm not saying that this is a fire sale situation for Cleveland, but maybe they just trying to clear the cap space. Because Amari Cooper, he was one of those $100 million contract wide receivers. Just in case you don't remember, when Amari Cooper still played for the Dallas Cowboys, they signed him to a $100 million deal. Then they traded him to Cleveland. So, not that he personally didn't work out, because you've seen what he was still capable of when they had Joe Flacco. But when you're losing and you got somebody like that on the books, that's in his late 20s, early 30s, it's like, why am I paying you this much to lose? I'd rather clear it. I mean, at least that's the way I look at it. If I'm paying you this much to lose, I'd rather trade you away, have somebody else pay you, and at least from a financial standpoint, I'll be able to make some moves that'll help my team be able to compete next season. Because this season is a wash for Cleveland. It's a wash. They're in the same division with Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati. And the division is in that order. Baltimore's in first place, Pittsburgh in second, Cincinnati's in third. You're in last place in your division. So I'm not completely mad at what Cleveland is doing here. My whole thing is, are you going to do that with everybody else that's on your roster that's older and taking up cap space? We know you're not going to do it with Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is the one player that is not for sale. But you might do it with one of your corners, Ward. You might do it with the other pass rusher, Zadarius Smith. You might do it with him. You might do it with some other players on the offensive side of the ball, mainly the offensive line. Jedrick Wills, you might do it with him. You know, Alex Mack, you might do it with him. Center. I mean, if you're going to do this kind of move, make it make sense across the board. I don't know what they're holding on to. In my personal opinion, Jameis Winston, you need to give him at least a shot. You need to see what he looks like under center right now, because with Deshaun Watson looking this bad, you need to have somebody else snapping the ball and throwing it. And Jameis Winston, he's one of the guys that I would have hopes for in his career to have a rebound somewhat to his career, kind of like how Geno Smith did. Geno Smith was a journeyman for a little bit. After his time with the Jets didn't work out, he was moving around a little bit. Then when he finally got the chance to start with the Seattle Seahawks, they was looking good with him there. He was another one of he was one of those quarterbacks that should have held the clipboard to start off his career versus being thrown right in the fire. Maybe it's the same for Jameis. Not that Jameis wasn't good when he first came out. Jameis made a Pro Bowl, so it's not like everything was a complete bad thing with Jameis Winston. So, but from a Bills perspective, what does Amari Cooper do for the Bills? This offense is already cooking and clicking. No huge names on the roster offensively outside of Josh Allen at quarterback. No huge names. You got young players. They drafted Keon Coleman at wide receiver. They got James Cook, running back, and the backup running back, Davis. I like the way he runs the ball. The offensive line is competing to be one of the best offensive lines in the league. And the offensive coordinator is like in his rhythm right now. They starting off really well. Defensively, I can't say that they're all that impressive. I mean, they're good in the trenches. They suffered some key injuries. You know, Matt Milano getting injured didn't help them at all. But a well-coached team, a team that's good at developing players, when they suffer those kind of injuries, they can still live after the fact because they got some other players coming up behind them that is, capable of playing well. Not saying that they'll play to the same level, but the drop won't be so significant. And so what does Amari Cooper do for this offense that's already clicking, operating like a well-oiled machine right now? Well, now you get a number one wide receiver that can consistently be, at bare minimum, he can consistently be good. Because the thing with young players is they could potentially have good games, they could potentially have bad games. You never really know. And so, given that the Bills are off to a really good start right now, Josh Allen hasn't thrown an interception yet this season. Getting Amari Cooper, which is one of the route running technicians in this league, creating separation and all of that, this is going to be really interesting to see if he takes them to the next level offensively. Because he's just joining the team that's got everything really going good for them right now. They really technically didn't need to do this, but they did. Which shows that they're trying to compete this year still. They still think that their window is open. I don't know if I'm with that. But at least they're like upgrading to a degree. Given Amari Cooper, he may be like here for just 2 years maybe in Buffalo. But these 2 years could be spent helping out Keon Coleman, hone in on his route running skills. Because he can catch the ball. He's athletic. Played basketball. He can jump. He can win the jump ball. He's shifty quick. That works well with what Amari Cooper does, being a route running technician. He can teach Keon Coleman a lot while still being productive on the field. He can be like, look, let me show you how to do this. And goes out there and does it. And then on top of that, you got all of these other younger players. Shakir out here looking good. They got some speed with Curtis Samuels. With this move, Buffalo was all right. They was good without him, but they definitely gonna be better now. They got the grips on the division right now. Jets is playing catch up. I mean, this is going to be an interesting thing. We'll see how much of an impact this really makes. Is this impact going to be big enough to where you start to question if Baltimore and Kansas City can be comfortable in the spots that they got at being 1 and 2? That's what this move does. Can potentially do, at least. If this move can cause you to look at Baltimore and Kansas City like y'all ain't got this conference sold up like y'all think y'all do. Mission accomplished. Because Amari Cooper can still do this. And when you look at his division right now, with everybody else struggling, the Bills got a lot of time right now to work him in and find out the chemistry without being penalized with losses. So this could potentially be really good for them, because he does the same thing for Buffalo that Davante does for the Jets. Everybody gets knocked down one spot. Now Amari Cooper's taking on the number one corner, not Keon Coleman, not Shakir. Everybody else is going to be taking on somebody else when they line up. Josh Allen should be able to identify the weak link in coverage easier. Buffalo should be able to score more points, because I know they just beat the Jets, but they only scored a couple of touchdowns. They settled for field goals the rest of the way. So now this could potentially be a move where Buffalo, they could be one of those teams that score 3 to 4 touchdowns a game. Potentially 5. I know when they played Jacksonville, they put the smack down on them. They scored like 5 touchdowns in the first half. So Buffalo got a lot to look forward to, potentially, because Amari Cooper still got it. No, he's not as fast as he used to be. He's not as quick as he used to be. But he still understands body position and how to create separation. It's just that the separation that he creates now is not as much separation, but it's enough to be good separation to make uncontested catches. Because think about it. In his younger days, Amari Cooper, when he would create separation, he could create up to 3 yards separation from the corner. But now, in his older age, 1 yard separation maybe, 2, which is, that's open in the NFL. That's open and potentially an uncontested catch. Like, what he could do, depending on how fast they start to work him in the offense and actually make him a priority to get the ball to, it's just immediate benefits for Buffalo, man. When a good team starting off well and they make a move to continue that positive momentum, you got to think about what this does to each defensive coordinator now. Because now, all of that tape that you've seen on Buffalo through these first 6 games, all that tape that you've seen, now you got to think about that, and you got to add Amari Cooper to the new picture now. So now Buffalo may do things differently, to where those first 6 games of tape, yeah, you can still learn something from them, but you ain't gonna learn everything. Now you still got to play I got to figure out what's gonna happen here game. It's gonna be interesting. We got a lot to look forward to. There was some other trades, minor trades. I know Cam Akers got traded to the Minnesota Vikings. Hopefully he takes that number 1 spot and starts at running back over there. There was some smaller trades, like Jacksonville got traded away a defensive tackle. But, those were the 2 big trades. The 2 big trades as of at this point. I do expect to hear more trades happening. I really do. I feel like there should be some more teams that's moving some things around. So we'll see. We'll keep a tune in for it. But for now, that's Jay's Sideline, man. Be on the lookout, man. I know I said I wanted to do a review of what's going on in the NFL for each quarter. Now I'm thinking I'm just going to have to do it at the halfway point in the season because things have just been that busy for me, so I'm going to just do it at that point. But we will have more things coming. Me and the wife talked about doing some things together. So we're going to give y'all some different episodes. Don't be surprised if you hear her voice paired with mine on the J Sideline. And hopefully we're going to have some more FNS podcasts coming up. We trying to work it in the schedule. We all got busy lives here. We all work. So, but we actually do this for fun, man. This is for fun. So we're gonna link up here again soon. and we're gonna try to talk about some things that is prevalent to what's recently happening and what was recently going on. So be on the lookout for the rest of the F&S family. But this is Josh. Y'all be easy. Have a good day. Peace.